Hey guys, Ezra here and welcome back to another Ezra review, and today we're gonna be reviewing Tron Ares. Now this is the third installment of the Tron franchise, and I did a review for the first two Tron movie before. You guys can watch that video, and I am someone who again I think the first Tron movie is a movie of its time. I don't find it to be super special, especially to this day, but I do appreciate the legacy that Tron left, because it does have a huge impact on like the VFX, media. And of course, we get the sequel Tron Legacy, which in my opinion is a better sequel. It has a way better storytelling and way better characters, and it was absolutely amazing. I love Tron Legacy. And I was looking forward to Tron Ares, because I was like, okay, the trailer seems cool. That it might feature some new ideas or new storyline that could be interesting, because I was a bit disappointed that they did not continue the storyline of Sam Flynn and Cora from Tron Legacy, and they just like went into this new direction. I was a bit disappointed at first, but I was willing to give it a chance, because maybe the movie was able to introduce some cool storytelling and was able to expand the world of Tron, right? At least that's what I'm expecting, but that's not what I get. So obviously with this review, I will tell you guys the good part about Tron Ares and then the bad part about Tron Ares, which I have a lot to say in the negative part, because I was like, man, this movie, in my opinion, makes a huge mistake in terms of the storytelling and the characters. But again, I'm gonna get to that later, So with the positive aspect about the movie first, I would say that the positive one is obviously the music by Nine Inch Nails, and I think every single reviewers that already reviewed this movie, we can all agree that yeah, Nine Inch Nails music is absolutely amazing, and hearing that techno music in theaters is just like so good. It was like it really elevates the scenes itself, and I think mixed with the obviously the other part is the visual effects and the action sequence. And the visual effects in this movie is absolutely stunning. It's amazing to see this on the big theaters and then in the big screen, and then mix that with Nine Inch Nails music. It was just absolutely bonkers. It was so amazing. I love it a lot. And the action sequence itself is also really fun to watch as well. Even though I think I like the Tron Legacy action sequence a bit more, but I still think Tron Ares action sequence are enjoyable enough, and yeah, that's it. That's the positive part about Tron Ares that I could say. Visual effect is good, music is great, and then the action sequence are also really really enjoyable. I love them, so yeah, that's that. Now let's get to the negative part about the movie, the bad part about the movie, because I have a lot to say. And here's the biggest mistake that Tron Ares make. The filmmakers should just continue directly from Tron Legacy storyline, because again, this movie decided to introduce some new characters like Ares, played by Jared Leto, and then Eve Kim, which is a new characters played by gretalee, which is the current CEO of Encom. Yeah, that's right, she's the current CEO apparently. What happened to Sam Flynn and what happened to Cora? Don't worry, they acknowledged that a little bit in the movie, where they mentioned that Sam Flynn, the former CEO of Encom, and he's currently resigned because of personal reasons. Like, okay, and then Sam and Cora are revealed to be missing. We don't know where they are, and that's like the only acknowledgement that you get from Tron Legacy. Like, it's so shit. Because here's the thing, the biggest problem in the movie is that the characters and the storyline is not as interesting as Tron Legacy, or even as interesting as the first Tron movie, because the first Tron movie, the plot is simple. I think it's a good introduction to the Tron universe. I like that. And then you got Tron Legacy, which I think has interesting characters with Sam Flynn and then with Cora as well, and even Kevin Flynn and Clue, because I think the world of Tron Legacy is much more interesting than Tron Ares, because I think Tron Legacy was able to expand the world of the grid even better and has some interesting storyline and characters that I actually really really care about. I love the relationship between Sam Flynn and Kevin Flynn. The father and son relationship are absolutely amazing, and I also love Cora there, which I think is a nice addition to the storyline, where she's revealed to be the ISO program that was able to help humanity to advance into the future, right? And in Tron Ares, all of that just completely gone, in my opinion. Or I guess like there is a carbon copy of that said characters, because Gretalee's character, in my opinion, is sort of like a carbon copy of Sam Flynn's character, where she has like a deceased siblings, and then she just happens to lead the company. And I feel like the characters just doesn't struggle in this movie. There is some obviously there is some conflict in the movie for sure, but I feel like there is not enough like internal struggling with Eve's character. She just kind of there for like, yeah, I lost a sister and I feel sad, and then like she just so smart and was able to lead a company together with her sister. And I feel like the movie doesn't do enough job to justify why these two twins was able to take over as the CEO of Encom. They just kind of like mentioned that, like, yeah, they just kind of mentioned that these two characters are smart in coding and making video games, for the in the movie, which is like Tron is based on a video game, which makes sense. But I feel like it doesn't do enough to make me care about the characters, and I found them to be pretty flat and dull and boring, just uninteresting. And same thing with Ares, because I was expecting Jared Leto or Ares character to be at least an interesting character. I was expecting Jared Leto to give like an interesting performance there, but I think Jared Leto performance are completely flat, where he just is saying lines, and the faces, the facial expression just remain the same throughout the movie, and it becomes boring. And the character's plot point is essentially like you've seen this before, where the AI that was made by humans, eventually the AI became self-aware and tried to have a journey of discovery in the movie, which I think you can see that happening already. And I mean, my mind immediately goes to Terminator 2, where Arnold Schwarzenegger is obviously having the exact same character development, except that movie's awesome and this one doesn't. Like, it becomes way just uninteresting, the performance, the characters, the storyline is just not interesting. It just feels flat and boring, and like nothing like Tron Legacy, where I feel like they were able to introduce some new stuff in the grid, and it was at least interesting allegory there, between Kevin Flynn and then Clue, and then the ISO program, which is Cora. Like, there is some interesting plot point in Tron Legacy, but Tron Ares is completely lack of that, because it's just a same storyline you see multiple times, where an AI characters become self-aware and go to a journey of discovery, which again, it's not exactly a bad idea, but it's also like very cliche. And I think the way Tron Ares committed to that plot point, it's just so boring. They did not do anything interesting with Ares' character at all, in my opinion. Same thing with Eve character, Gretalee's character. Also, she's just uninteresting, man. It was just like so boring. And every single other characters in this movie, they're just completely forgettable, in my opinion. I don't remember any of them in the movie besides Ares and Eve, because those two are the main characters, obviously. And even they were boring. And also, I guess Dillinger was here, Julian Dillingers, played by Evan Peters. Evan Peters at least is having fun with performing the characters here. And again, Julian Dillinger is actually the grandson of Edward Dillinger, which is Cillian Murphy's character from Tron Legacy. So that's right. I think this movie has a huge time jump, which I think this was like this took place 2 generations after Tron Legacy. Again, the movie doesn't give us like a clear timeline, but it was kind of alluded to the fact that this was like 2 generations after Tron Legacy. So like, yeah, there's that. And it was just like such a weird decision, in my opinion, because I think the Dillinger, which is like the villain in this movie, are just like, again, they're okay. And we have another Dillinger's character played by Gillian Anderson named Elizabeth Dillinger, which is basically Julian's mother in this movie. So yeah, there's that. And she's the daughter of Ed Dillinger. So again, 2 generations after Tron Legacy. So there's that. But I don't know. After that, it's just like, yeah, I mean, the characters itself is just not interesting. Like, Julian Dillinger is just like a very, very cliche billionaire villain, where it's just like, yeah, I can control the grid and I can create the AI and I will weaponize the AI, and that's why I created Ares in the first place. Like, there is nothing interesting with his character. There's no nuance there. It was just flat. Like, it's just like, yeah, I'm bad because I am bad, and that's it, for his character. And it was just like, man, it was such a disappointment, like the storyline, the characters are just like completely disappointing, in my opinion. And also, Another thing that the movie failed to address from Tron Legacy, besides Sam, Flynn, and Korra, is actually the character of Tron himself. We don't know what happened to him because you guys remember from the end of Tron Legacy, Tron was able to regain his memory and then he fell down to the sea of simulation and then his light turned from red to blue, which means that he becomes the good guy again. But the movie never addressed that. I guess maybe the grid got destroyed in Tron Legacy, so maybe Tron himself get disintegrate and then he just completely destroyed. Maybe that's what happened, but I don't know, man. It just feels like it's such a weird decision for not acknowledging the Tron characters himself, because that's literally the title of the movie. Because I feel like you should at least acknowledge what happened in the end of Tron Legacy there with Tron character. Because I thought that, oh, maybe tronares will acknowledge Tron character and maybe he's gonna come back here. Like, nope. The movie just completely forget that ever happened. I guess he just destroy and die. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. So that's also disappointing in my opinion. Also, another thing is that when they handle Kevin Flynn's character, Jeff Bridges' character, because he does come back in this movie, it was also like, not that interesting. I think the movie did something that was nostalgic to a lot of Tron fans. Because Jared Leto's character Ares actually went back to the original 80s grid. And even the characters can acknowledge that, yeah, this is the 80s grid, this is Kevin Flynn grid, that's where he met Kevin Flynn, which I think is as a program in that grid. And the grid looks exactly like the first Tron movie, I think, okay, this is a cool nostalgia stuff, but I feel like the way they implement Kevin Flynn's character, in my opinion, is just like so... It feels unnecessary, in my opinion. It feels like just there for like nostalgia bait, it's like, hey, here's the 80s Tron grid, which is cool, I guess, but at the same time, here's Kevin Flynn, like, it's cool, right, to see him, like, and I'm like, well, not really, because I feel like his character has no big reason to be in the storyline, unlike Tron Legacy, where there is a big reason why Kevin Flynn fits into the storyline. Tronares feels like, hey, it's a Tron movie, we need Jeff Bridges, we need Kevin Flynn, because we have to, so that's how I feel like to me. So again, it's also, again, falling flat, and there is no interesting stuff there, I guess, besides the nostalgia. But anyway, this leads me to the other segment in my video, where I want to talk about how this movie should be a direct sequel to Tron Legacy. And I think the storyline that was presented here in this movie could actually work as a direct sequel to Tron Legacy, and all they need to do is just replace certain characters. For example, Eve character, Gretalee's character, should just be replaced with Sam Flynn, because she's the CEO of the company of Encom, right? So why not we just have Sam Flynn as the CEO? Because again, the movie just revealed that Sam Flynn was like the former CEO of Encom, and then he just disappeared for personal reasons, which I think is kind of funny where he says personal reason, because it feels like Disney or like the writers decide to, like, hey, for our personal reason, we're just gonna like put Sam Flynn away from the movie, and then we're never gonna acknowledge what happens to him. He's just missing. Like, that's it. We never know what happened to Sam Flynn and Korra. And I think it's just such a huge misstep, because you could just replace certain characters and you could have a direct sequel to Tron Legacy, while keeping the same title as tronares, in my opinion. And the other plot that it could replace is that for example, in this movie, Ares' character is going through a journey of discovery, right? Where he's trying to become much more than just like an AI controlled by Dillinger, and then he's trying to find his own identity. And here's the thing, you could just replace Ares' character with Korra. Korra could be the AI program that could go to a journey of discovery, because again, in Tron Legacy, he spent a lot of time in the grid, so I think it will be interesting to see that what happened to Korra in the real world, and it could be again, a hard journey of discovery in the real world. You could have done that, but they didn't. And on top of that, you could also replace Julian Dillinger's Evan Peters character with Cillian Murphy, bring him back, as Edward Dillinger. Like, you could have done that, because here's the thing, the plot point that they were presented in tronares, in my opinion, could have worked as a plot point for a direct sequel to Tron Legacy. Again, all they needed is just replace certain characters and maybe rewrite some stuff in the movie, and that's it, because at the end of the day, the main villain of tronares is actually not Ares himself, because again, he's the main protagonist in this movie. The main villain is actually Athena, which is like his second in command, played by Joni Turner-Smith, which is like, yeah, she's basically becoming the main bad guy, the main AI villain in tronares. So I feel like you could also replace that with, again, Ares himself, You know, Jared Leto should just play a straightforward villain, in my opinion. Like, he should have just done that instead of like going to this like journey of discovery that just completely fucking boring, because like the performance and the dialogue is just like so flat. Everything in this movie is just so flat. Besides the action sequence, the visual effects, and the music, like I said before, those are the only positive aspect about this movie, in my opinion. And yeah, you could also keep the same title, tronares. Ares is the main bad guy. Jared Leto is actually playing the main villain. And then we get to see Sam Flynn's storyline and Cora's storyline to continue in the third movie. You could have done that, because here's the other things. In Tron Legacy, they introduced this plot point where Kevin Flynn is trying to use the grid to advance humanity, and that's where the ISO program was like accidentally born in the grid, and Cora is an ISO program. And in this movie, Tron Ares, they introduced an idea where a program cannot exist in the real world without a permanence code. They need a permanence code applied to them, to the program, so they can exist in the real world. If not, they only have 29 minutes before they disintegrate, and then they get sent back to the grid. That's the plot point of Tron Ares, which I think, okay, that's a good plot point. Which, again, that could also work as a direct sequel to Tron Legacy, because why? Cora is a program from the grid. So you could use her character to further the plot, further the conflict of the storyline, while continuing the same storyline from Legacy, where this time Sam is trying to basically, and maybe Simon is working together with Kevin, his dad, in the grid, and then they both trying to find a way to create this permanence program, or like permanence code, so Cora can live in the real world. So Cora can actually work for the Antcom company with Sam Flynn as the CEO, and then they both can find a way to advance humanity. But Dillinger created Ares to counter Cora and Sam. Like, again, they could have done that. The plot point and the idea of this movie could have worked as the direct sequel for Tron Legacy. They could have done that. But for some reason, Disney or the writers decided to, hey, we have a creative choices, we have a creative differences in Tron Ares, so that's why we decided to go with this new direction. And here's the problem. The new direction that they were going with is not interesting at all. Everything, in my opinion, seems flat. We've seen this storyline before. Eve character, gretalee's character are not interesting. She's not relatable, because everything just basically handed to her, but she's already taken over as the CEO for some reason. I guess because she's smart, and that's it. That's literally the only reason that the movie provided. It's like, hey, the Kim sister or the Kim twins are smart in the movie, and that's why they take over the Antcom company. Like, what? That's the only reason. And it's just like, she is not relatable at all, and Ares, again, completely flat. Just there is nothing interesting with the characters there, so yeah, I have no idea how they fumble so bad, man, because I think they actually plan to develop a direct sequel to Tron Legacy way back in 2015. And the project was actually already greenlit in March 2015, but it was apparently canceled in May 2015 because the movie Tomorrowland flopped at the box office. So Disney decided to scrap the film. And then they decided to reboot the franchise in 2017 with Jared Leto. And it was just like such a strange decision, in my opinion. And it's just like, yeah, I have no idea why they decided to have these completely flat characters as the main protagonist of the movie. Because again, you cannot just have like a visual showcase in your movie with some great soundtrack and then everything else is just like the storyline, the characters just like completely flat. Like, you cannot do that, because as the audience became not interested with your storyline. That's what I feel with Tron Ares after I came out watching it. I was like, man, that movie has great action sequence, has some great visual effects and great music, but the storyline and the characters, like, they're not memorable at all. Like, they're not interesting. They're so surface level storytelling, and I think it was so. I was disappointed in it, because I was actually really looking forward to Tron Ares, and I was looking forward to see that maybe they can actually come up with something interesting and they could find an interesting way to expand the world of Tron. But they didn't do that. Some of the plot point, again, could have worked as the Legacy sequel, and then could have worked as a direct sequel to Tron Legacy, but they didn't do that. And it just further frustrates me that all they needed to do is just replace certain characters. I know I said that a lot, but that's literally what I feel after watching Tron Ares. Just just making me feel so mad that they did not just having Sam Flynn and Cora and just continue their storytelling, because the idea in this movie could have worked a lot better if they just like continue the legacy storyline. In my opinion, it was just so, it was just such a misguided creative choices there, where they decided to replace Sam, Flynn, and Quora with a lot less interesting character, with Eve and Aris, because Aris and Eve is like, yeah, that's literally Quora and Sam, you know, like, oh my god, like I don't know why they decided to go with this different direction. It's just so weird to me, like I don't know. I guess like that's my review for Tron Ares, guys. I know I keep repeating the same idea here in this segment. I apologize for that, guys, but I feel so disappointed by this movie. I want this movie to be good, and I think it just making me so angry that all they need to do is just replace the character with Tron Legacy character, and the movie would have worked a lot better, in my opinion. But they didn't do that, so God, and also get Joseph Kosinski to came back to direct. Why not? See, he was supposed to came back with the same writers of Tron Legacy in 2015, but they didn't do that. So, okay, sure, we get some lesser director, I guess, to direct this movie, and lesser writers as well, because why not, right? Current Disney, guys, don't you love current Disney? They just make the most terrible decision ever. They always have like an interesting idea, but the execution are just like so shit, and they could have fixed the movie just like with a snap of a finger, in my opinion, but they didn't do that. They decided to follow this new creative decision, way more interesting, right? No, it's not. So yeah, I'm sorry for being angry, guys, but that's how I feel with Tron Ares. I was disappointed. So that's my review for Tron Ares. You guys can let me know in the comment section below if you guys already watched Tron Ares. Then what do you guys think about this movie right here? Are you guys someone who actually liked the movie, or are you guys like me, found the movie to be disappointing? And what do you guys think about my idea that they could just replace the character with Tron Legacy character, and they could just make the storyline works a lot better? Because in my opinion, it was right there. It was right there in the movie, but they didn't do it. So this just makes me so angry. So let me know, guys, your opinions about that in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure, guys, I guess like throw your diss at that subscribe and like button, and share the videos to usual stuff, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. And again, I hope you guys enjoy this movie review, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye.